Sometimes as you come down to a junction, you may forget to come down through your gears as a novice, or you may not have left yourself enough time to come down through your gears. Well, that's through a little bit of forward planning, so as an early rider, you might find that you're not planning coming down through the gears as you approach the junction, so I'm already in first gear here, and I'm good to go. So as you're coming down to any junction, you should be coming down through your gears at the appropriate speed. So match your gear to the speed that you're doing. Try not to approach the junction and then stamp down through all your gears really quickly when you're still doing about 20 miles an hour and you find yourself in first gear, which isn't particularly helpful if you then need to reintroduce the clutch, and you'll find you'll lock your rear wheel up. So planning your gear changes to come down through the gears is quite important, provided you get it right. You should be in the correct gear for the speed that the bike is travelling at as you approach any junction. Now, the purpose of today's video isn't really to talk about when and how to change gear, it's to talk about what to do when your gears get stuck. And gears get stuck when you approach a junction without coming down through the gears, and you find yourself stopped in a high gear. And because the bike is no longer moving, it does not want to come down through those gears. So if I approach this junction and forget to come down through my gears, I'm just going to brake and then at the appropriate moment pull the clutch in. Okay, I'm going to forget to do my gears. I'm going to try and make myself stop in fourth gear. It's really hard to keep my left foot still. Okay, so there we go, I've stopped in fourth. Now imagine when I tap on the gear lever, it doesn't want to change gear, which it didn't. Okay, and very quickly I've managed to resolve the issue by taking the clutch out to the bike point, back in again, and tapped with my foot on the gear lever. Done it again, out to the bike point and back in again, and then tapped on the gear lever all the way down to first gear. Now that took me about, I don't know, a quarter of a second to sort out, or maybe a second, I don't know, I wasn't actually counting, but it was very quick because I knew what I was doing. I didn't panic, I didn't stamp on the gear lever, I just used the method, which is very machine friendly, to sort the gears out, and I was away in first gear. Let's do it again. So I'm going to slow right down in sixth gear. I'm going to forget to come down through my gears because I'm so focused on all the other things you've got to think about as a learner. Clutch needs to come in now. Don't do my gears, don't do my gears. So hard not to do the gears. Right, I'm in sixth gear. Okay, now I'm going to start pushing the gear lever. 5, good. 4, no. There we go, it doesn't want to. So clutch out to the bike point, back in again. Now it's gone into fourth. Third, yes. Second, no, it doesn't want to. So clutch out to the bike point, back in again. It's slipped into second. Neutral. Okay, if it gets stuck in neutral, that's not neutral, so it's telling me a lie. That was clutch out to the bike point and back in again. Okay, if it gets truly stuck in neutral, then the clutch comes all the way out and back in again. But I didn't just chuck the clutch out then, I checked whether that actually was neutral. And it's quite important that you don't get to neutral and chuck the clutch out, because it might not be neutral. Bikes lie to us about neutral. So test, is it neutral with the clutch? And if it isn't, pull it back in again and do the process again. It's a really good technique to help you to resolve the issue quickly and allow you to move on safely. So if you find that you've stopped in a high gear because you haven't planned your braking process, or you're changing down through your gears correctly, don't panic. Use the clutch to help you to change gear. If you've ever stopped or you're travelling along and you get stuck in neutral and the bike won't change gear, then if it's definitely in neutral, you need to take the clutch all the way out and back in again, and then try again with your gear change. So it's different if your bike gets stuck in neutral. It's a really good skill to know this, because a lot of people get themselves in a muddle, particularly when they're learning with the gears, because it's not like a car. You can't go from fifth to first immediately. You've got to work your way down through the gears. So again, if I put it back up into fourth gear, okay, so we've stopped in fourth. Whoops, we forgot to come down through the gears. Okay, don't panic. If it won't change gear, so you're pushing down on the gear lever and nothing's happening, clutch to the bike point, back in, one tap. Try another tap. Yep, this bike will do it. Otherwise, if it hadn't have done it, then I'd have done the clutch out to the bike point again and another one tap. Now let's imagine it's got stuck in neutral and I'm tapping on the gear lever with the clutch in. I can't get it into first. I can't get it into first. Panic, panic, panic. Don't panic. Just take the clutch gently all the way out, back in again, and then it'll go into first gear. Be very careful not to stamp on your gear lever whilst you're doing this. Lots of people and lots of our students we see panicking and stamp, 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 stamp on the gear lever, but they're not changing anything. They're just stamping on the gear lever, and effectively, if I put it back into neutral, in your gearbox, your cogs need to line up so the cogs do this. Okay, now if the cogs aren't doing this, they've slightly misaligned and they're sitting like this. Now by letting the clutch out to the bike point and pulling it back in again, or all the way out and back in again if you're stuck in neutral, they slip in, which helps when you then tap with the gear lever, tap, not stamp, it then helps it to pop into the gear nice and easily. Don't panic if you stop in 6th gear, 5th gear, 4th gear, 3rd gear and it won't change gear or you're stuck in neutral. Use the clutch to help you to change gear. Probably one of the skills that we don't usually train people in unless they find that there's a problem with it, but actually it's something we ought to be telling everybody, because occasionally it might happen one day. It might happen perhaps if you do an emergency stop, if there is the occasion to do it, and you do find you've stopped in the higher gear because you've focused so much on your braking, which is perfectly fine, until you then try and change gear and find that your bike doesn't want to, and then you're sitting there going, oh, I don't know what to do. So just don't panic. Hopefully that will enable you to have a more stress-free ride with less issues. You just take your time, sort the gears out through good use of the clutch and the bike point. And if it happens, now you have the technique to resolve the problem nice and quickly and without panicking and without causing any undue wear and tear on your gearbox. So, happy practicing!